The year 2026 will forever be remembered as a turning point in global music media, and at the center of this seismic shift stands one name that needs no introduction: Jungkook of BTS. What initially appeared to be just another high-profile collaboration between a legendary music publication and a global superstar has now evolved into something far bigger, louder, and more disruptive than anyone could have predicted. Rolling Stone, a brand synonymous with music journalism for decades, has experienced an unprecedented explosion in relevance, traffic, cultural influence, and commercial power, and the catalyst behind this phenomenon is unmistakably Jungkook BTS. From the moment Rolling Stone released its Jungkook-related content, the internet reacted not in waves but in shockwaves. Social media timelines flooded instantly. Websites slowed under the weight of millions of clicks. Fans across continents mobilized with an intensity that felt less like promotion and more like a global movement. Industry insiders, media analysts, and even competing publications were left stunned as Rolling Stone's metrics began climbing at a speed rarely seen in modern media history. This was not a gradual rise. This was an eruption. Before 2026, Rolling Stone was already an established titan, respected, influential, and historically significant. But in an era dominated by short-form content, viral trends, and algorithm-driven platforms, traditional media brands were struggling to maintain the same level of cultural urgency they once commanded. Many questioned whether legacy publications could truly dominate the conversation again in a world ruled by social media creators and fandom-driven platforms. Jungkook answered that question without saying a word. The moment his name became connected to Rolling Stone in 2026, the publication was no longer just reporting on culture, it became the epicenter of it. Searches for Rolling Stone skyrocketed globally. The brand began trending in regions where its reach had previously been limited. Southeast Asia, South America, the Middle East, and parts of Africa recorded traffic spikes so extreme that analysts openly described them as anomalies. In reality, it was simple: where Jungkook goes, the world follows. Jungkook's global influence is not theoretical, it is measurable, repeatable, and devastatingly powerful. Every appearance, every mention, every collaboration connected to his name carries with it a tidal wave of attention. But what made 2026 different was the scale and depth of the impact. This was not just about fans clicking an article and moving on. Readers stayed, they shared, they debated, they revisited. Rolling Stone content featuring Jungkook showed record-breaking engagement times, suggesting that audiences were not only arriving, they were absorbing every word, every image, every detail. Industry analysts quickly noticed something unusual. Rolling Stone's audience demographics shifted almost overnight. Younger readers poured in, many of whom had never interacted with the publication before. At the same time, longtime subscribers returned with renewed interest, curious to witness firsthand the phenomenon everyone was talking about. This rare overlap, new generation fans and legacy readers coexisting in the same digital space, created a perfect storm of cultural relevance. Advertising partners noticed immediately. Brands that had once been cautious about investing heavily in traditional media began aggressively competing for placement alongside Jungkook-related content. Advertising rates surged, sponsorship deals expanded. Rolling Stone was no longer negotiating from a position of survival but from dominance. In boardrooms across the industry, one uncomfortable truth became clear. Jungkook had transformed Rolling Stone from a respected publication into a cultural weapon. What makes this explosion even more remarkable is that Jungkook did not rely on controversy, scandal, or shock value. There were no artificial narratives, no forced drama. The power came purely from his presence, his artistry, and the emotional connection he holds with millions around the world. Fans didn't just consume the content, they protected it, promoted it, and elevated it as if it were their own achievement. In many ways, Rolling Stone became a shared victory between the publication and the army. Social media platforms turned into battlegrounds of numbers. Hashtags combining Jungkook and Rolling Stone trended repeatedly throughout 2026. Screenshots of website analytics circulated widely, showing traffic spikes so high they bordered on unbelievable. Comment sections transformed into international forums, with fans writing in dozens of languages, united by a single focal point. For Rolling Stone, this level of organic, global interaction had no precedent. The ripple effects extended far beyond digital metrics. Music industry executives began reassessing how media partnerships should function in the modern era. Jungkook's impact demonstrated that when an artist with authentic global reach aligns with a media brand willing to adapt, the result is not incremental growth, it is exponential transformation. Rolling Stone did not merely benefit from Jungkook's fame, it was redefined by it. Critics initially attempted to downplay the phenomenon, suggesting that the surge was temporary, a fandom-driven spike that would fade within weeks. They were wrong. As months passed, Rolling Stone's elevated status remained. Subscriber numbers continued climbing. International recognition solidified. The publication became a reference point not only for music journalism but for understanding how culture moves in the digital age. Jungkook was not a moment, he was a multiplier. Inside the industry, whispers turned into open discussions. Other publications scrambled to replicate the formula, seeking their own Jungkook-like catalysts. But there was a problem: Jungkook is not replicable. His influence is the result of years of consistency, authenticity, talent, and emotional resonance. You cannot manufacture that. Rolling Stone didn't just collaborate with a star, it intersected with a once-in-a-generation force. By late 2026, financial analysts began including Rolling Stone in conversations it had never previously entered. Media valuation reports showed dramatic upward revisions. Partnerships expanded beyond music into fashion, culture, and global entertainment coverage. Rolling Stone was no longer reacting to trends, it was setting them. And at the core of this transformation remained the undeniable Jungkook effect. Fans, meanwhile, understood exactly what was happening. Across platforms, ARMY openly celebrated Rolling Stone's success as proof of Jungkook's unmatched reach. They shared articles like trophies. They referenced Rolling Stone's statistics as evidence in debates about global influence. In fan spaces, the publication's name became shorthand for credibility, prestige, and impact. Rolling Stone didn't just gain readers, it gained defenders. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this phenomenon is how seamlessly Jungkook bridged generations. Older audiences, some unfamiliar with BTS, found themselves drawn into the narrative out of curiosity. Younger fans discovered Rolling Stone's historical legacy through Jungkook's involvement. This cross-generational exchange revitalized the publication in a way marketing campaigns alone never could. Behind the scenes, Rolling Stone insiders reportedly acknowledged that 2026 forced a complete rethinking of strategy. Globalization was no longer optional. Fan culture was no longer something to observe from a distance. Jungkook had proven that fandoms are not passive consumers, they are active engines of growth. Ignoring them is no longer an option for any media brand that wants to survive. As the year drew to a close, retrospectives flooded the internet, all circling back to the same conclusion. Rolling Stone's explosion in 2026 was not an accident. It was the result of aligning with an artist whose influence transcends charts, borders, and languages. Jungkook didn't just elevate Rolling Stone, he reminded the entire industry of the power of genuine global connection. Looking ahead, one question continues to dominate conversations. Can anything top this? Can Rolling Stone or any media brand ever experience a surge of this magnitude again? There are no clear answers. What is clear is that 2026 set a new benchmark, and Jungkook BTS stands at the center of it, not as a footnote but as the driving force. In an era obsessed with algorithms and artificial virality, Jungkook delivered something far more potent: human impact at a global scale. Rolling Stone became the vessel, but Jungkook was the energy. Together, they didn't just make headlines, they shook the foundation of the music industry. And as history continues to be written, one truth remains impossible to ignore. When Jungkook moves, the world moves with him. Rolling Stone in 2026 wasn't just a success story. It was a warning, a lesson, and a declaration all at once. The industry has been officially put on notice, and nothing will ever be the same again.